أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والصلاة والسلام على آله وعلى صحبه أجمعين أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون صدق الله العظيم. I seek refuge with Allah from Shaitan, the rejected, the accursed. Indeed, the praise is for Allah, therefore we praise Him. We seek His assistance, His help exclusively. We seek His forgiveness. And we seek refuge with Allah from the evil which emanates from within and the harm that it causes. I give open testimony that there is no deity worthy of worship but Allah, highly glorified is He. He has no partner in His dominion of His creation. And I give further testimony that Muhammad, to whom the Quran was revealed, peace and prayers be upon him, is His servant and messenger. Peace and prayers be extended to His family, His companions, and all those who gather in righteousness and who follows thereafter. Ameen. O you who believe, have taqwa, this deep and incomparable regard, this fear, this reverence that is due only to Allah. Right? Give taqwa, have taqwa for Allah as it is His right. And die not except as Muslims. Surely Allah speaks the truth. Assalamu alaikum. We thank Allah, as always, for allowing us to gather for the Salat of Jumu'ah, allowing us to gather on this powerful day. In our tradition, we understand Friday, this is the day of creation. It is the day that Adam was created. This will be the day of resurrection. So we can see this, we can see our gathering in multiple ways. We can see it not only as a sign of obedience, right? Not just a sign of recognizing Allah's mercy towards guiding us towards this path, this complete way of life, but we can also see it as a redemption. We can see it as a resurrection. But whatever it was that kept us, that has occupied our attention, for whatever mistakes we have made throughout this week, whatever lapses we may have made, Allah has given us this day to come back together and witness, not just for ourselves, but to be witnesses for one another. Witnesses towards one another that there's nothing greater. There's nothing greater. There's nothing more important. There's no more urgent call for the human being, for the human soul, than to respond to the call of Allah, to respond to the call to the worship of the oneness of Allah. So we thank Allah for allowing us to be of those who have heard the call and who have responded, whether physically or virtually, but we have taken out this time mentally to dedicate ourselves towards the remembrance of Allah. So alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar for Allah giving us this. So I begin first by saying, in this khutbah, we know that this day, it precedes, we got Father's Day coming up, we got Juneteenth coming up. And I had remarks that I had really prepared thinking very much about that in terms of fatherhood and freedom. And as I'm on the way here, something else came to me. I'm thinking about a different ayah. And I want to read this ayah to you. And it is in line with fatherhood, but it is an aspect that I had not considered deeply before. And this is when Prophet Jacob, Yaqub alayhi salam, when he is addressing his sons and he is on his deathbed. And I don't know if we always, or this is to remind us of the importance of this particular occasion and what it means and what it caps off, because we think about Prophet Jacob, we think about him in relationship to his son, Prophet Yusuf, right? But I'll begin by reading the short ayah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Am kuntum shuhada'a id hadara Ya'quba al-maut إذ قال لبنيه ما تعبدون من بعدي قالوا نعبد إلهك إله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق إلها واحدا ونحن له مسلمون. صدق الله العظيم. Were you witnesses when death appeared before Jacob? Behold, he said to his sons, what will you worship after me? They said, we shall worship thy God and the God of thy fathers, of Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac, the one true Allah. To him we bow in Islam. Surely Allah speaks the truth. When we think about fatherhood, to be a father, first of all, we think about it within the context that Allah gives it to us. Fatherhood, being a father is a part of, ideally, I shouldn't say ideally, as Allah gives it, right? I don't want to use the language of popular ethics and thinking. As Allah gives it, fatherhood is attached to motherhood, and these exist within within the union of marriage. These exist within this union that we take before Allah, before witnesses, and fatherhood implies provision and protection. Right? Provision and protection. It implies an understanding of the landscape, of the societal landscape. And this kind of brings us back again. We think about the Quran as this beautiful book that has so many different illustrations of human psychology and social composition, right? That we're able to go to and glean these nuggets, this wisdom that Allah has for us. But when we think about in terms of provision and protection and guidance, the story of Prophet Jacob, alayhi salam, as it relates to this particular ayah, where he is on his deathbed and he is talking to his sons. And the one question that he has for them is, what will you worship after me? And their response, we will worship the God of thy fathers, your God. The God of Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac. This is a profound moment. And it's profound because we don't often stop to consider who these individuals are. We understand that these are his sons, but we don't always think about the fact that these are the same sons who succumb to their own desires, who succumb to their own insecurities and own weaknesses. Right? The same sons who took their younger brother that was entrusted to them and threw him down the well. Right? The same sons who ridiculed their father over time, right? The same sons, matter of fact, before you got to the ridiculing, the same sons who understood and recognized the father's love for another son, right? They were not secure enough within themselves, right? They did not have enough of an understanding or relationship, number one, with Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that point, to recognize that it was okay for their father to have love for more than just them. It was okay for their father to have a different relationship with that son. Right? They were not secure in that moment. In that moment, they inclined towards the worst of themselves. Right? And as brothers, we're also recognizing we're looking at a community. We're looking at a community. Man, Muhammad said that the purpose, the highest estimate or highest achievement of life, or the goal of life, is government. The goal of life, the highest aim of life, is government. As governance over ourselves, right? But then it is also as we gain governance over ourselves, however that manifests. And sometimes that governance is not always good. So, we got good government, we got bad government. That exists in the individual, and it also exists in the governments that are produced out of those people. So if you have insecure people, if you have people who are detached from the remembrance of Allah, if you have people who are jealous, who are insecure, who are envious, the governments that they form will reflect that. The decisions that they make together as a group will reflect that. Well, alhamdulillah, even in that story, we are reminded that there are levels to this. There are levels to this. That even in that story, there's one of them who said, yeah, maybe let's not kill him. All right, because the plan was to kill him. Let's not kill him. Let's just throw him down the way. All right, so it's levels. It's a gradation there. But still, these are the same young men, the same brothers who recognize that love, who were offended by that love, threatened by that love, and sought to deceive their father. Right? Send them out with us. We'll take care of them. Right? These are the same brothers who, after they came back with the shirt, right, the garment stained with false blood, say, the wolf got him, we did our best, he's gone. Same brothers who lied to their father, right? The same father who's asked them at the end of his life, what will you worship after me? Right? There's a whole lifetime. There's a whole lifetime that has passed by. There has been insecurity, there has been deception, there has been mockery. When Prophet Jacob, when he said, I trust in Allah, right? None despair of the mercy of Allah, except for those without faith. Right? Even as he is going through it, he is deeply, he is wounded. Right? He is in a state for anyone, and my heart goes out to any parent, not just who has lost a child, and it is quite different to have the knowledge that your child is no longer here, right? Your child returns to Allah, but when your child goes missing, right? When your child goes missing, you don't know. You just think of the turmoil that mother and that father go through. But it was in his heart. It was and he understood there was something in him. No, Yusuf, my son is alive. I am distressed at his absence. I am distressed at your deception. I am distressed. I'm upset at your mockery. Right? But I have not lost faith. I have not lost faith. So a lifetime, the whole story of Yusuf, as beautiful as it is, because we get to see Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, we get to see his patience, we get to see his faith, we get to see his resolve, his resilience. We get to see all of that. But the true beauty, as beautiful as his resilience, is the resilience of Jacob alayhi salam. As beautiful as his story is, from someone who was thrown in a well and sold as a slave, right? Didn't realize how much, didn't realize the treasure that they were looking at, didn't realize the blessings and the gifts that Allah had given him, and how he was elevated. He had to endure prison and false accusation. And this is a beautiful account, right? One of the most, I shouldn't say that, but for many, it's like when I come across Yusuf, I gotta finish Yusuf. Right? I gotta read that from beginning to end. But this account is not in Surah to Yusuf. This is in Surah to Baqarah. Right? Where we're speaking directly to the children of Israel. We're talking about social psychology. We're talking about personality types and orientations. We're talking about redemption. We're talking about the power of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, right? The English speaking. We're talking about the power of his resilience, the power of his faith, and what it did and what it meant, everything that they went through, and its impact on his sons. And if we think about what it is to be if you're thinking about fathers and why we celebrate the idea of the concept, of fatherhood, as a provision, as a protection, it's exemplified in that exchange right there. What will you worship after me? After everything that we've been through, everything that we've seen, we will be absolutely out of our minds to answer anything other than we will worship the God of thy fathers. Right? Allah. That's it. And this is important. It bears weight on this particular day, as I say, not just for Salatul Jumu'ah, but every time that we answer the call for prayer, it is a sign of not just obedience, but it is also a moment for an opportunity for redemption. It is an opportunity for redemption. We don't come here as perfect people. We are not assembled in here as angels. We're not assembled in here as people who don't have faults and flaws and don't have issues that they're dealing with and weaknesses. That is not who is in this room. That is not who is joining us virtually. And somebody tell me. I don't think y'all can see. We are in here as people who are aware of the necessity, who are aware of the power and the transformative agency of Allah's mercy. We are here as people who understand that without Allah's mercy, right, we are absolutely lost. We are lost, and our deeds, our actions, everything is of no account. So we come to the salat, whether as an individual or in congregation, we come to the salat also with the hope for redemption. And there's not a perfect Muslim. That does not exist. I spoke to somebody yesterday, guy on the job, he's asking me about, he started rattling off some names to me. He said, you know, so and so and so and so. I said, no, I don't know who that is. He said, what about this person? I said, no, I don't know who that is. He said, what about this person? I said, no, I don't know that. And now he knows who I am. You know, he knows I'm imam in the masjid and all of that. One of the individuals who likes to have these philosophical conversations, and I appreciate that. But he says to one of our co-workers, he says, see, that's good. That's a righteous guy. He said, I just named a bunch of porn stars. And I didn't say anything else, just kept moving. But as I thought about it later on, I said, if I had the presence of mind, and maybe next time I see him, I'll let him know that pornography consumption, some of its highest places is in Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries. Muslim majority countries. So let's be very clear. When people have an expectation that as Muslims, and maybe if he'd have named somebody else, I might have known who it was. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying, it's not about consumption, but, popular culture, you know things. But the point is, we live in a society that tests our claim to be Muslim. It tests it. And Muslim is the aspirational state that we all want to be at. And I know in the Quran, Allah tells the Muslim man, the Muslim woman, the believing man, the believing woman, right? And so on and so on. But we have to understand Islam or Muslim as an active state. Muslim as our highest state. It's our highest state. And to go back to the comment that I shared from Imam Muhammad earlier, he says, that the highest expression of human life, I mean, we've said it in different ways. It's in community life or human life. It is best exemplified. It automatically yearns for government, right? Governance of the self and governance collectively. But what we have to ask ourselves is that, how do we qualify? Have we qualified ourselves for that governance? Right, because we're in this land, and this ties into Juneteenth. We think about the idea of celebrating the freedom that had been covered up. And if there's ever an occasion where it's appropriate to call somebody a Kaffir, these would have been the Kaffirs, right? Those who covered up the freedom, not just took it from them, right? Because we know slavery has existed in many different societies throughout history, never like it existed here, right? We make the distinction. But once the land had come to the point where we said, we're going to abolish this blight, we're going to take this away. But you got the small group who continue to cover up the fact that these people are free, right? That their enslavement has come to an end. That's cap. That's covering up. That's covering up the truth. But freedom is just the starting point for us, dear Muslims. Freedom is just the starting point. And it's essential. It's important that we understand that our true freedom comes with our understanding of our accountability. I don't want to go overboard, but we have been given the ability to be both master and slave. To be both master and slave. There's an address from Imam Muhammad, which is a Hajj address from 78. I highly recommend, go back to this. Some things are for situational, and then other things that are, you can pick it up and get into it, and it has as much application at that particular moment as it did right now as it did then. This is one of those. He speaks about the responsibility or the importance of engaging, being both master and slave, master of oneself, but slave to Allah. Master over oneself and slave to Allah. And that is how we execute our freedom properly. And that is how we exercise true governance over ourselves. And that is how we form the governments within community, and how we also are assets towards correcting the course of the land and the government that we are within. That's a part of us being Muslim. Right? It's making a contribution. That's a part of fatherhood. Now, I know there are some, we got to understand, Allah tells us that the male is not like the female. Right? There's a difference, and there's a difference for a reason. We don't all have to be the same thing. But it's important that we understand what is required of us, what Allah has placed in us, and what needs to come out of us. So as fathers, we should be thinking in terms of provision, and not just provision in this particular moment, but provision for the generations to come. And the only way we do that by submitting to Allah. We do that by having a proper understanding and a proper relationship with this vessel that Allah has given us. So we ask Allah to keep us mindful and keep us appreciative of this occasion for redemption. We ask Allah to keep us mindful and keep us appreciative of all of the protections that He has given us within our way of life. And we ask Allah to keep us inspired to exemplify the beauty of what it is to actually be Muslim. Not just to call ourselves Muslim, but to be Muslims. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. So to say a few words briefly about Juneteenth, which is it's garnering a lot more attention now. It's a day off of work, you know, at least here, Cook County, I think in the state of Illinois. It is important that we attach the symbolism to real action, to real world action. And when we think about the idea of celebrating freedom, as we celebrate freedom, we must make sure that we are not celebrating laziness. We are not celebrating freedom to harm ourselves. We are not celebrating freedom that is detached from accountability and responsibility. Because true freedom, it requires those things. It requires accountability. It requires responsibility. And we have to also understand is that we are in a society that depends upon us advocating our responsibility. That depends upon us running from what is required from us. It depends on us living with intoxicated minds. Now, there are not many. There's not a huge push right now. As I made the mention about pornography consumption in Muslim majority countries, and we can also talk about right here in America as well. We also have intoxication, right? We have intoxicants of every single kind, and Muslims are not immune to those either. I mention this because this is also a time as anytime we remember Allah, that is a moment for us to come closer to Allah. That is a moment for us to redeem, for us to correct ourselves. So for those who are dealing with that particular, with that vice, whatever intoxicant it may be, understand that intoxicant that is keeping you from the full responsibility and the full accountability that is required of you, right? And to leave that thing, make a vow and a commitment to yourself to leave that thing. The world would have us continue to embrace this freedom that's attached to absolutely nothing, right? You're free and go on and run about, kill yourselves, rob somebody, do whatever is best just for you, just feel good. But that is not what Allah has created us for. Allah says He has created men and jinn for what? For His worship, for His service. And that means as an individual, we have to stand firm over this trust that Allah has given us. To be master of this and join together with others and form communities based on that. But that is the dominant principle. And we have to be the voice of correction in a society that has maligned and given a perverted understanding of what it is to be free. Our freedom in this country is a freedom where only some are healthy, only some do well, right? While the majority suffer. So let us take back our sobriety, whether that is through substance or whether that is through thinking. Let us take back our sobriety and let us be the agents of goodwill, the agents of upstanding morality, and agents of people. Number one, I want to just kind of close with this, of people who understand the difficulty associated with being a God conscious, a person who tries to live and exemplify taqwa in a society that is constantly pushing you to do otherwise, constantly pushing you to forget about Allah, to forget about what He's given you, to forget about the call, right? To forget about your salat, that tells you to prioritize every other relationship over the relationship that you have with your Creator. Right? So that means that we will be merciful towards one another while also supporting each other. So as we come into this weekend, this Father's Day weekend and Juneteenth weekend, I pray we remember the examples that Allah has given us of fatherhood. And we remember the examples of freedom and what it actually means and what we are actually entrusted with, male or female. And may Allah continue to guide us closer to that path, keep us on that path that He is pleased with. Amen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار.